Fellow Canadians, we're on target to become a global energy superpower. And if we do it, we'll have the opportunity to help millions, maybe even billions of people around the world who are struggling with energy poverty. And what's energy poverty? If you don't know, don't worry about it. Just get comfortable, settle in, and come with me. We're going from the remote mountains of Peru to the freezing edge of the Canadian Arctic. It's gonna be a ride, but by the end, you'll see how Canada can finally say to the world, help is on the way. Our journey begins in Calgary, Alberta. Located at the base of the Rocky Mountains, Calgary is roughly 5,000 kilometers north of the equator. Winters here can be hostile. Temperatures can drop to -30, and with the wind chill, it can feel closer to -50. In conditions like this, exposed skin can freeze in minutes, and without proper heat or clothing, death from hypothermia can occur in just a few hours. Fortunately, Calgary is in Canada, an energy-rich country where energy is affordable, dependable, and abundant. Imagine trying to live here without a steady supply of energy or electricity. It would be nearly impossible. Meet Callista McNabb. Callista is a post-secondary student, and we met up with her trudging through snowy streets on her way home to pack her bags. Callista is heading to a remote community in Peru on a mission to bring reliable electricity to places where it's still hard to come by. She'll be heading deep into the Andes, facing rugged terrain and unpredictable challenges.
Conditions out on the mountain, sounds like there's gonna be snow and there's gonna be rain. Who knows what the people are gonna be like. I'm kind of just preparing for everything.
Callista is traveling to Peru with Light Up the World, a Calgary-based charity that brings solar power to remote communities. In Peru, where millions lack reliable electricity, she hopes to light up homes, schools, and clinics. Joining Callista on the journey will be about 30 volunteers, including fellow student Pavneet Chima.
I'm going to Peru with Light Up the World Foundation. This organization is gonna give a remote area called Arequipa a really good and large solar power, equal education opportunities for classrooms, and a computer lab, high-tech satellite internet for students so they can be exposed to global opportunities and just get equal educational opportunities as we do here.
Pavneet understands the importance of energy access on a deeply personal level. Originally from India, she witnessed firsthand what life is like without reliable electricity, where power outages are common and entire communities are left in the dark. For her, this trip is more than volunteer work. It's a chance to give back and help others gain what she knows can change lives: abundant, reliable, and affordable energy.
They don't have access to heat. Can I imagine surviving in Canada or in Calgary without heat? No, I don't want to go to bed wearing jackets. As a student myself, I want equal opportunities. I want to know what's happening in the world. I can't imagine a single day without the internet. I won't be able to do my assignments. I won't be able to research or know what's happening in the world. So I feel like giving those kids these opportunities means a lot. They deserve it. They're students as well. There's nothing different than, them being in Peru or me being in Canada.
Callista and Pavneet are about to begin the adventure of a lifetime. But our documentary isn't a travel show. It's about something much deeper. What they're setting out to confront is energy poverty, a global crisis that affects billions of people around the world. So what exactly is energy poverty? To learn more, we took a break from Canada's chilly climate and popped down to Washington, D.C. to check in with one of the world's leading voices on global development, Dr. Bjorn Lomborg. A best-selling author, political scientist, and president of the Copenhagen Consensus Center, he was named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people for his work challenging how we think about solving the world's biggest problems.
Energy poverty has lots of different definitions. I like the European Union's definition, which is energy poverty means that you're so poor that you have to cut back your energy consumption to the point where it affects your household's health or their welfare. It simply means that you have so little energy and you can afford so little energy that it really hurts you. That's a bad place to be.
Studies show about 1.8 billion people across more than 150 countries live with energy poverty. Dr. Lomberg explains some of the deeper root causes and consequences.
Energy poverty is really mostly because you're poor. Being poor sucks in all kinds of ways, and one of the ways it sucks is that you can't afford all the energy that makes your life much, much better. Remember, when rich people in rich countries talk about energy poverty, you sort of imagine, oh, you can't fly as much, or you can't afford a car yourself. But to many people around the world, it's just those very, very basic things like keeping warm or cooking your food, which you can't afford. And that means you end up doing it really badly with dung, cardboard, wood, whatever. And that is one of the reasons why a lot of people, vastly over 1 billion people, cook and keep warm with dirty fuels, and their indoor air pollution is so high that it's equivalent, according to the World Health Organization, of smoking 2 packs of cigarettes each and every day. That's terrible. We don't worry about going into our kitchens because they're all electrified, and when you turn on the kettle to get some tea, it's not going to kill you, but it will do so in poor countries.
Dr. Lomberg is exactly right. When Canadians turn on their stoves or furnaces, they don't worry about dying. This is something many people in energy-rich countries can easily take for granted.
Definitely people living in North America, Canada, or like I came from India, I feel like there is a point where we do take energy for granted because we're just given so many resources. And when you're given a lot of resources, it's easier for you to neglect how important or how grateful you should be that you're getting those resources, because it's just in your hands. When you're born, it's there. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to take that extra step to get those resources.
Resources. That's what people need to escape energy poverty. And it's exactly what Canada has. From vast reserves of natural gas and oil to abundant hydro, wind, and solar, Canada is one of the most energy-rich nations on Earth. Our homes stay warm and our cities stay lit, even through the harshest winters, because we have reliable access to energy. To make that real, when temperatures plunge in Canada, we survive because most homes are heated with natural gas furnaces. They burn gas to heat air, which is then pushed through ducts to warm every room. It's fast, efficient, and essential when the cold turns deadly. Meanwhile, electricity powers everything else. Here in Alberta, about 80 to 85% of electricity comes from conventional energy sources, primarily natural gas. The remaining 15 to 20% comes from renewables, like wind, solar, and hydro. Most of the electricity is generated in natural gas-fired power plants. These plants burn gas to boil water, creating steam that spins a turbine. The turbine drives a generator, producing electricity that flows across a massive grid, keeping life moving no matter how cold it gets. Globally, the story is similar. Around 60% of electricity comes from fossil fuels, with the rest supplied by a mix of nuclear, hydro, solar, and wind. While energy mixes vary from province to province and country to country, it's important to understand that dependable electricity relies on a blend of sources. That's how our current system works. It keeps us alive, but also powers our growth. It fuels our hospitals and schools, our industries and innovations. The more reliable our energy, the more we can focus on building, learning, and improving life, without having to think about whether the lights will stay on. But that's not how it is for much of the world. Lima, Peru was our next stop.
How are things? Hi, how are things? Good to see you. How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
Good, we did it.
We wanted to arrive ahead of Callista and Pavneet to get the lay of the land, meet the people, and better understand the world they were coming to help illuminate. After flying more than 11 hours and traveling over 7,000 kilometers from Calgary, we arrived in the coastal city on the edge of the Pacific Ocean. Nighttime traffic in Lima can be intense. At times, it's the kind of traffic that barely crawls. Honking, weaving, and stop-and-go congestion that seems to stretch endlessly from the airport into the heart of the city. The traffic was a reminder that the energy required to keep a city like this moving is enormous, and that in Lima, even getting where you need to go can be a challenge in itself. While Lima is the capital and home to nearly 11 million people, millions more across Peru live in rural or remote communities where the streets wouldn't be lit up like these. For them, energy poverty isn't just a statistic, it's life. And that's where our journey will really begin.
My name is Kevin Quillaguaman Acostupa. I'm a tour guide in Cusco. I would like to show you how these people are living there without these basic things. I mean, like energy or like water.
Meet Kevin, a seasoned tour guide based in Cusco. Kevin met us in Lima to help navigate the city, keep our team and camera gear safe, and make sure we had everything we needed before heading into the rural communities. From arranging local contacts to picking up supplies, Kevin became our guide, our fixer, and anchor on the ground.
When the tourists usually visit our country, Lima and Cusco, for example, they visit just touristic places mainly. They don't go farther. They cannot see how is the reality, how the people live actually, for example, in the communities or in Lima, for example, in the mountains, without a lot of, resources.
Having Kevin with us was key. For him, this wasn't just a project. Energy poverty was personal, and he wanted to help us shine a light on it.
When you told me about your documentary, I was very excited because I know many places that they are living without energy, without some basic services. Look, when I see a kid in the mountain, in a community, without electricity, without energy, if I can help these people, I said, why not? Why not, yeah?
Before we left Lima, we wanted to check in at the head office of Light Up the World. That's where we met the executive director, Aaron Cohen, who would give us a clearer picture of the work ahead, the work that Callista and Pavneet were about to step into. There's another person we haven't introduced you to yet, Mikola Pelikov. He's a director helping us with this project because there was just too much to capture in Peru for one crew alone. We need to split up, run 2 teams, and cover as much ground as possible. But more on Mikola later. First, let's meet Aaron.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Aaron, this is Mikola.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Come on in.
Thank you.
My name's Aaron Cohen, and I'm the Executive Director of Light Up the World. Light Up the World is a nonprofit organization that works in rural communities that don't have access to electricity or internet. So I got involved as a student when I came on a trip to Guatemala in 2018, and I just was really inspired by the work that Light Up the World did, and I decided to get involved further, and it's kind of one thing led to another, and now I'm here 6 years later in Peru. Yeah, I think the one thing that really spoke to me on that first trip was just what anyone can do to help someone else in another country that's suffering with energy poverty. So a lot of people ask us, why solar panels? Why don't you do hydroelectricity or wind? Well, this is the reason right here. All this red is pretty much some of the best solar in the world here. And where we're going, we do a lot of projects in the Cusco area. This time we're gonna go to the Arequipa area. So you can see a lot of red, even purple here. It gets tons and tons of sun all year round. And some of the other communities that we do are over in this area here. Here, this is a map of where all the electricity, where the grid is currently. All these little red lines are where the current electricity grid reaches. So up here you can see, this is a zone where we've worked in here, and there's nothing, because it's so remote. So these people, a lot of people in this area, there's no electricity either. Yeah, mostly in the jungle. And then now in Arequipa, we're gonna go right to this point here where there's no electricity grid either.
The plan sounds simple. Bring solar panels into a remote community with no grid access and provide power where there was none. But Light Up the World's vision goes further. It's not just about electricity, it's about connection. Along with solar power, they're working to get these communities online with an e-box that will connect with Starlink, because access to the internet means access to education, opportunity, and the wider world.
This is our test system. So this is pretty close to what we're actually going to be implementing in the field. Or I guess we should say integrated solar and internet system. Yeah. So this is the router where we do all the programming that allows the community to access the internet. And then up here and in the back, we have all the solar components of the charge controller, inverter, and the batteries as well.
It sounds like Callista and Pavneet are in for quite an adventure, but they haven't arrived yet. They'll be coming soon, along with the rest of the volunteer team. But before we continue on our mission, we need to formally introduce Mikola Pelikov. As mentioned earlier, Mikola will be stepping in as director for the Light Up the World story. For Mikola, our project also hits close to home. He fled the war in Ukraine, where energy scarcity and security became part of daily life. He brings a unique and powerful perspective to the issue of energy poverty because he's lived through it.
My name is Mikola Pelikov. I'm a film director and producer from Ukraine, and now I'm based in Calgary, Alberta. 3 years ago, the war started there. Russia started the full-scale invasion in my country. So I lived in the small town near Kyiv. It's called Hostomel. It was occupied by Russia for 2 months. Then Ukrainian troops make that land free. We try to be in the safe places as it possible. We spent 1.5 years in Latvia, but then we decided to move to Canada.
Mikola and his family were able to safely escape the Russian invasion and rebuild their lives in Canada. But his experience left him with a powerful perspective on energy, one that goes beyond lights and heat. He's seen firsthand how energy can be used as a tool of control. When a country doesn't have enough of its own, it becomes dependent on others, and that dependency can be exploited. In Mikola's view, energy isn't just about hardship. It can also mean a loss of political sovereignty.
Ukraine have big dependence of the natural sources of Russia. When you have such a big dependence of some of the country, they can tell what you need to do. Russia Federation tells Ukraine what language we need to speak, what cultural aspects we need to follow, and it's only because they gave us cheap resources to have a heat in our homes. And when Ukraine started to follow West pathway, Russia started to make prices on that resources higher and higher. In the final, they started first part of the war. They occupied Crimea and some of the eastern part in Ukraine. So I think that's the result of that.
Fundamentally, if you don't have your own energy, you're dependent on others to sell it to you. One obvious example is Europe, that was very dependent on Russian oil and gas. And what happens when you suddenly don't have the same policy objectives as your trading partner? You're incredibly vulnerable. That is what energy security really means. If you have your own, as the US and as Canada has, it means you can just sort of say, well, screw you. We'll just go on and live good lives and we don't need you. But if you put yourself at the mercy of others, especially others that you possibly don't trust, that could be a huge problem in the future.
In Ukraine's case, it was a problem. Their dependence on Russia's oil and gas meant economic instability, political pressure, and even the threat of having energy supplies cut off in the dead of winter. It left the country vulnerable, unable to fully chart its own course. Now in Peru, Mikola feels a world away from what he witnessed back home. But the core issue is the same: the importance of having your own resources and the real consequences when you don't. To him, this is a story the world needs to understand.
Oh, I think it's very important because a big part of the world still don't have enough of energy, enough of fuel and other resources to make those life comfortable. So we need to share with people that things that we have every day. Some people don't have it for full life. So maybe that people who have more needs to share that opportunities, resources, wherever. The most hardest part for every human, you need to have that feeling of the home where it's warm and where you feel yourself confident.
While Mikola stayed behind in Lima, waiting for Callista and Pavneet to arrive, the rest of us had to keep moving. Our first destination, Cusco.
No quiero ver, solo la...
Our first stop was to pick up the necessary gifts and offerings for the people we would meet. Kevin took us to a shopping area that most tourists to Peru would never see.
Okay, it's right here under this bridge, Belén Bridge. Puente Belén, ¿ya? Ahí está, ver, coqueras.
Our goal was to capture energy poverty, but not at the expense of the people living through it. We didn't want to exploit the communities we were entering. We wanted to approach them with sensitivity and respect.
Over there. Casera.
Kevin helped us do that. He recommended we bring gifts as a gesture of goodwill and gratitude.
In tu casera para... Este, ¿no? De cochipata. ¿Cuánta el... A ver. ¿Cuánto está esto? We're buying this. So because the people from the Andes where we are gonna go to the communities, they love the coca leaves. They use the coca leaves every day. Gracias, mommy. Okay, come here. Let's go back to the bar. We call this area El Baratillo. It's basically the people sell all of the second-hand things, shoes, sweaters, and everything that you can sell. That you can buy from second hand, it's a kind of also market, yeah. 5 soles, look at this.
In developing countries, this is what an outdoor mall can look like. People doing their best to meet basic needs, clothing, supplies, essentials.
Mushrooms, potatoes, dehydrated potatoes too. We call chuño and morayas.
The cellars were set up in the mud, with no covering overhead, no heating in the cold, no air conditioning in the heat. None of the comforts we often take for granted in the West. When energy is scarce and the economy is limited, basic things like shelter and climate control become luxuries.
Fresco tienes? You wanna try? This is chuta bread. Usually bring or buy this as a gift for our family when we travel to our communities. Okay, vámonos, let's go.
With coca leaves and bread in hand, we were finally ready to leave Cusco and venture into the highlands of Peru. What lay ahead wouldn't be easy. Steep terrain, thin air, and the unknown. But this was the only way to truly understand life without energy and the strength of the people who live it every day. While we set off, Mikela, Callista, and Pavneet arrived in Arequipa, a little worn out after an extensive journey.
Guys, just go to your rooms, 5 minutes and 5:30 meet in the basement.
Our flight was awesome. It was smooth. We did have a couple layovers, but overall the experience was great. We flew from Calgary to Vancouver, and then we had a flight from Vancouver to Mexico City.
Our flight from Vancouver to Mexico felt like forever. I think everybody was feeling it. We were all anxious. We were all ready to get going. And then we had our flight from Mexico to Lima last night, and we got on the plane, and the plane was empty. So we were able to all stretch out, and we were all super excited about that. So that was really good.
Callista and Pavneet had to take multiple flights just to get here, crossing countries, continents, and time zones. It's incredible when you stop to think about it. The sheer amount of energy it takes just to bring help to places that have almost none. Jet fuel, airport lights, navigation systems, power grids, all working in sync just to make this kind of journey possible. In fact, flights from Calgary to Lima would burn over 106,000 liters of jet fuel alone. And yet, we're headed to communities where even a single light bulb could change everything.
Welcome to Arequipa. You guys made it. So right now we're gonna do a quick little training, do some exercises. John Paul's gonna go over exactly how we're gonna install the system, the groups, and then we'll do some cabling exercises.
The work that Callista and Pavneet will be doing is hands-on. This is the real deal. Installing solar panels and bringing electricity to off-grid communities isn't easy. It's highly technical, and it can be dangerous. Precision matters. Safety matters.
So we will be getting our training. We will get brief information about what we should expect at the base camp, what kind of roles we will be doing. So yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of interactive training where we'll get to know more about our roles. We'll get to learn how to do things so we can make this project a success.
Their first exercise goes off without a hitch. There'll be more training, more tests ahead, but they're on the right path. Now, like us, they'll have to leave the comforts of the city behind. While the Light Up the World team continued their training, we had finally left Cusco. Outside the city, the Peruvian landscape opened up. Lush valleys, cascading waterfalls, and small farms tucked into the hills. We passed herds of the iconic alpacas and llamas along the roadside. Even though the altitude was starting to catch up with us, the beauty of the journey made it easy to forget. Our first stop, surprisingly close to the city, was where we'd begin to witness energy poverty firsthand.
So Kevin, where are we right now?
We are in Corca. It's the poorest district of Cusco area. This area is very poor in terms of economy. The main economy activities, there are many farmers. And so, as you know, probably the products that they probably farm here are not very expensive in Cusco. They are still used, for example, to cook the wood. Eucalyptus, for example, the wood of eucalyptus from the eucalyptus trees to cook. They don't, for example, not all of them, they have a gas, for example, that to use.
Can you show us how they cook here?
I'm gonna ask to her if she can show us the. Chemanta anta chata pamuran chemanta kosaiki ya?
Señor.
Anta chata pamuran chemantanya kosaiki.
Yes, señor.
She speaks Quechua. I explained to her about what we are doing, and she said, "Yes, why not? You can film how I cook." She cannot hear very well.
Kevin was a lifesaver. The local language here is Quechua, not Spanish, and certainly not a language many outsiders speak. Thanks to him, we were able to connect. This gave us a first-hand look at what cooking looks like without gas or modern appliances.
There's a light that she uses. There are her guinea pigs right here. Kawachiwanki, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Also, she has more wood inside. But look at this here. Yeah. This is the wood that she used to cook.
To think that this is still how people cook, just outside a major city, was truly eye-opening.
One of the problems that I saw many times with the people who cook like this is the smoke. They suffer, you know. They look like people who smoked for many years because they look at smoke. They're smelling every day that, and so when they go to the hospital, for example, when they are sick, the doctors ask, "Did you smoke? Did you smoke?" And so they say, "No." But the problem is because of the wood that they use, and they're inside in this environment. That's the reason that they late in their life that they have these kind of problems.
The reality is staggering. More than 2 billion people around the world still rely on wood, charcoal, animal dung, and other solid fuels just to make a meal. And the consequences are deadly. According to the World Health Organization, indoor pollution from cooking like this causes around 3.2 million premature deaths every year. Women and children are hit the hardest, exposed to toxic smoke day after day, putting them at risk for respiratory infection, lung disease, heart conditions, and more. Although she doesn't have gas to power a stove or eliminate the smoke, she does have one thing, a little bit of electricity, just enough to give her light.
She used the electricity basically just for this kind of, to illuminate at nights, you know, their room and kitchen. She doesn't have a TV, she doesn't have a fridge or some other devices. She doesn't use it. And so she pay like 20 soles every month, but she cannot pay because she cannot go to Cusco to sell because she cannot hear very well. One of her eyes cannot see very well as well. Her daughters and her sons as well, they send it from Lima money, probably friends or somebody, and is how he can pay for the electricity.
What we witnessed is something many of us would recognize right away as energy poverty. But it's important to remember, from the inside, it doesn't always feel that way. When you've had limited energy options, it's not about being in poverty, it's about survival, about doing whatever it takes to create energy with what you have.
Campa. ¿Al pan, Kichu?
Al pan, señor.
Ya, entonces. Gracias, mamita, muchas gracias, ¿ya? ¿Usted mensaje, mamá, ya?
Ya, señor.
Ya, mamá, muchas gracias. Añay, mantay.
Ya, señor, ya.
Say añay is in Quechua. Gracias, thank you. Yes.
While Kevin and I discussed our next destination, the Light Up the World team were loading up the trucks and the bus for their journey into the hills. It would take numerous vehicles to carry everything. Solar panels, tools, tents, food, internet gear, all the supplies needed to bring power to remote communities. This was serious business. And it's worth noting, bringing energy to places without it takes a lot of energy to begin with. Fuel for the trucks, manufacturing the equipment, months of human effort from every person involved. Solving energy poverty doesn't come easy, but it starts with the will to go the distance.
Yeah, in terms of the effort, the overall effort that's required, it's definitely big. The organization that it takes, the amount of resources that we need to work with in order to make this work. Just whatever keeps me going is just the fact that the system's going to be there for 25 years. And it's not like, even after 25 years, it's not like the battery's dead after 25 years. It's not like the solar panels die. The system's going to keep giving. So is it worth it for us to, maybe work 6 months on one project and then the system lasts 30 years? I would say yes.
The road ahead would be tough. It would be a long, sometimes treacherous drive through the mountains, with unpredictable terrain, sudden obstacles, and even the occasional parade.
Despacio, despacio!
The team traveled for hours as thick fog rolled in, making visibility a challenge, and then nightfall came. Luckily, Callista took all the bumps, even the unexpected ones, with a good sense of humor.
Hour 15 on the bus.
What did you say?
There was an alpaca in the road, a baby one. And we got high-centered twice. Because there was a new driver, but don't tell him.
Oh, car. There is truck, big truck.
Para el camión, John Paul, por favor. ¿Le puedes indicar?
And then, just like that, the mission came to a grinding halt.
So now our bus is stuck on the road and we try to make him free for this moment.
The bus was stuck, high-centered on uneven ground, and it needed to be freed for the mission to continue. Until the bus could move, nothing else could. But here's the thing. Being stuck is frustrating, but it's not the end. If they'd run out of gas, that would have been it. No second chances, no options. That's energy poverty too. When the fuel runs out, everything stops. But in this case, even though they were stuck, they could stay safe and warm because they still had energy, gas in the tank, and that makes all the difference. Because with energy, especially reliable energy like petrol, You can adapt, find solutions, and keep moving forward. Reliability is a key word in energy conversations. Without reliable energy, solving energy poverty isn't possible. With it, you have the time, the options, and the chance to solve other problems, like getting a bus unstuck from the middle of nowhere.
How was the ride?
It was long. It's very long.
This way? Oh.
After nearly 15 hours on the road, Pavneet, Callista, and the team were exhausted. Now it's time to rest, to regroup, and get ready to go back at it. Because tomorrow, they'd continue their mission to bring light, power, and possibility to people who've gone without it for far too long.
Now we are going to Lares, one of the districts of Calca province. Those communities and the district of Lares is considered one of the poorest districts here in Cusco region. And where we are going there is to show you how these people live without basic service, like for example electricity, or for example in some cases the drainage, for example, or how difficult is the access, to those places.
Like the Light Up the World team, we were driving through steep terrain, blanketed with fog and rain. It was winter in Peru, and the temperatures had dropped sharply. But this is where energy poverty lives, on the edges, where infrastructure fades and survival depends on resilience.
So look at this house. They don't have, for example, electricity. The only reason why they are living here is because there are water there next to them, next to their houses. We're gonna share some bread with them, yeah. Mantay out, tanta chata kozai ke. Amia buenos días. Chat antach. Kokachata soy lifta.
Gracias.
They don't have electricity. The only basic service that they have is water, basically, but it's from the mountain. They don't have anything from the government. Anything here in this case. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, mama. Gracias, mamita. Sulpai ki mama. Anyay. Okay, let's go.
The next stop on our journey was a town called Lares. We were planning to pick up some additional help, but when we arrived, we got troubling news. The kind that could completely derail us.
Ancallachi. Gregorio, buenos días. ¿Cómo está, papá? He is Gregorio. He is from Ancallaki, the community where we are gonna go now.
Pero uma anche não sei ligação espero.
Que lado que It was landslide. It's covering the main road. He's now going to call to 2 or 3 people. They're gonna wait us in where is the landslide.
We found out that the road leading into the mountain, the only road to reach the community we were bound for, had been washed out by a landslide. Our vehicle wouldn't make it through. Just like that, our plans were in serious trouble. But luckily, even if our van couldn't get in, the locals had an idea. Use the town's radio station to send out a message, a call for help. The hope was that people in the hills would hear it, meet us at the landslide site, and help carry the equipment the rest of the way in by hand.
¿Ya eso pueden filmar esa partecita, un favor? Ya, perfecto. You can film how he's gonna call to the community by radio. Yeah? Yeah.
Watching the local radio show get interrupted to help us was incredible. It amazed me that the people of Peru, in the town of Lares, were willing to pause their entire broadcast to send out a call on our behalf. Back in North America, it can be hard enough to borrow someone's cell phone. But here, they used their only connection to the outside world to ask if anyone in the hills could come meet us and help carry our gear. It was clear they wanted to show the world what they were struggling with just as much as we did. In that moment, it didn't feel like we were outsiders documenting a problem. It felt like a team effort, and we were in it together.
Muchas gracias, papito. Muchas gracias, papá. Muy amable. Vamos a ir ahí un rato para filmar ahí la situación.
The next part of the drive was intense. We headed deep into the mountains, far from the city, far from anything familiar. If something went wrong, there'd be no easy way out. With a thick fog, even a helicopter wouldn't be able to reach us. There were no other vehicles, no cell signal, no backup. And to make things more real, we were driving along the shoulder of an incredibly narrow mountain road, hugging the edge of a cliff. If there had been another landslide, or if something had gone wrong with the van, it's hard to imagine we would have survived. It began to feel like we were truly off the grid, and out here, anything could happen. We finally reached the point where the road had been washed out. To our amazement, some of the people from the community were already there, ready to help carry our gear the rest of the way in. It was a moment of true generosity and shared purpose at the edge of the map. Meanwhile, the Light Up the World team was preparing for their final leg of the journey.
We'll be heading out fairly shortly, so the hope is that it will be about 5 hours. Plan for today is kind of just to get there, settle in, and give the body time for that.
We are at Cotajalsi. So finally we are here after 15 hours of bus travel. And then we spent a good night last night, and we're just about to leave for our base camp, Arequipa. It's going to be 5 hours drive. We're splitting into different vans. It's going to be 6 people in each van. So yeah, we're excited.
The team fueled up, and from here, they'll be leaving the bus behind and switching to a convoy of smaller vehicles, built to handle the rough mountain roads ahead.
It's easier than yesterday, and I think we will be in the end point in 1 hour or less. And views here is beautiful. I feel this is very remote place on the earth.
The team was truly traveling to the ends of the earth, and they've pushed themselves farther than most would ever go. But out here, the higher you go, the tougher it gets. And soon, new challenges would present themselves yet again.
So now we are on the 5,100 meters high altitude. It is pretty hard road for us, and we have a flat tire on one of our vans, and now we try to fix that and continue moving forward.
Luckily, they could fix the flat tire, but it wasn't the only thing that was out of air. At nearly 5,000 meters, oxygen levels drop to about half of what they are at sea level. Up here, the risk isn't just fatigue, it's altitude sickness, and in severe cases, even death.
We're super excited to be here. This is going to be our home for the next 5 days. We're excited to get started with our project to help out this community. And yes, we did like a 5 hours long drive, but nobody feels tired. They're just super pumped, and we're excited.
Trying to get everything out of the rain so we can get our tents set up and get ready to go here. So,
Welcome to Maraya, guys. Okay, so right now, as you can see, there is several empty classrooms around that corner and the 3 big blue ones outside. You can go over there with your camping mate and start putting on the tent inside the rooms, okay?
We're gonna go build a tent, baby. Let's go.
Callista and Pavneet were moving in, getting to work, and doing whatever it took to help this community get energized and connected. In particular, the project would focus on a local school. It's where kids from miles around come to study and live throughout the year.
About the community of Arequipa, they have more than 300 people living here, and the school is for more than 100 students, exactly 180 students registered for the last year. This school chose to make that decision of building small huts for the students to live inside during the school year. They are not in the best condition they could have, but that's the only thing they can do to help them, because the other option is for them to walk 4, 5, 6 hours each day to come back and forth from their houses to the school. They get no heating, and the water here is really hard. No calefacción, no energy, no electricity, no internet. About the light, they usually go by candles. For cooking, they get some firewood that they can't get near here because there is no trees at this altitude. So they have to save firewoods, come down to city, buy them, bring them here, and then they use that to cook. Their houses are not completely made for these conditions. So they made the best way they can.
The living conditions for students and for many in the community can be jarring for those of us coming from the West. Basic hygiene, sanitation, and access to reliable infrastructure are ongoing challenges.
Naturalmente, la verdadmente, en el campo, en nuestra casa vivimos con batería nada más, ¿no? Esa batería de 12 voltios es lo único que tenemos para iluminar nuestra casa. Y bueno, más antes nosotros vivíamos así sin batería, sin foco, sin nada.
A veces no hay a veces man los nick de belch. Ahnapchi wera lego snyao baka mas ans papukura ka buena. Mana tukuy kuch emarwana ikutas. Aha. Ahna lepona na ki pips ka sheku panel chelonka. Mana hasta chai chunit chop reskamach, chop tutgamach.
Somos frontera con otras regiones y nos consideramos olvidados en la región Arequipa. No tenemos servicios básicos, luz, agua, y acá tenemos bastante necesidad, bastante pobreza. Y los padres de familia, de alguna otra forma, hacen los modos posibles para sacar adelante a sus hijos. Necesitamos bastante apoyo, más que todo porque creemos que la educación es la puerta para que ellos salgan adelante, salgan de esta pobreza y que Huarcaya progrese.
He's right. Education is one of the key pieces to helping people break the cycle of poverty. And that's why bringing energy to a school is so important. It gives students a real chance. With power, they can read after dark, use technology, and learn in safer, better environments. Studies show that access to electricity directly improves school enrollment, supports longer study hours, and even boosts teacher retention. Globally, countries with high energy access consistently outperform those without it in education, health, and economic growth. It's not just about lighting a room. It's about opening the door to a future with more opportunities, and that starts with energy.
Putting lights, putting outlets, giving them energy so they can maybe plug a laptop over there and study more or work more, or just have some call with their parents that are in the biggest cities. So right now in our project, we take into account that, and we are making the best in our hands to better the quality of life in those huts.
Back on our side of the mountain, we were struggling with the altitude. and it was our bodies that were lacking energy. We took slow, careful steps because we didn't want to burn ourselves out. The lack of oxygen was tougher than we thought it would be. But thanks to the incredible people who helped carry our gear, we made it. The community was breathtaking, figuratively and literally. It was tucked into the mountains and surrounded by stunning landscapes. But behind that beauty were some hard realities. The first thing we had to do was meet the people of the community, to introduce ourselves and listen. We needed to hear from them directly what they wanted us to capture and how they wanted their story to be told.
Buenas tardes, Japan. Buenas tardes, Japan. Kunang no kaksutimi Kevin Killawaman, no kakllaqtayo Chinchero, Larupi.
Ya, compañeros, Quito, no haremos
ya.
Kiko na primera vez Quito to parishanchis, después no hay copa más zona turistata, Arica, Mikipe, Keviñaico, Cochaico, Chiconapi, Genas Petipi, Animal Chaconapi, Stia. Después, venado, zorro, añas, guayata, todo. Quita para que nos monarin correct, pero solamente no hay que quita monay coman. Oh, sitski alinkan manchi pachaca. Oh, no hay que china ñankunata monayta kichari coman. Alinta anchiwam no hay que zona turista imagina quita tokichikuman kan mame pero oh.
Para pipuyupi chiriwan. Chay no kay kups yan na pagwit mo na ikom imaya pips mawaway kopa no kay kopaps chay siya no kre marinigam chay manta no kay compañero mo na ikom no kay away ko kay pek
Mano nicho imaya na pagwips mo kay kopkaincho imanakta imana carter pata directos carter kups pasan hoy kups chichalaw estudiar con según kolkachay kaskan mahena hoy kups estudiar man kolkachay ay panchet aknap kitaka pu kamaning ka kuna mamay ko namang spor repong Chino triste mo kay cuidaico, chimantata ki na campo ko na ka ay biskan kartra ko na bay ko na basura ko na imana sumamsita.
After everyone had a chance to share, Kevin offered them bread and coca leaves as a gesture of our appreciation and gratitude for opening up their hearts and homes to us. Things were off to a warm start, even though the room and the weather outside were cold.
Okay, everybody, meeting down here, please, except for the solar crew. You guys keep working. So the plan for today, first and foremost, the solar team is going to keep working on plugging this into the system so we can charge our batteries, because if we don't have energy, we can't do anything. Okay, the goal for today, cabling, we want to get each team has to do 3 rooms. If we each do 3 rooms, we can do 12 today, because there's 4 teams. Sound good? Okay, let's get to work. Let's do it. Ruha!
The solar project continues. With the team pushing through the altitude and giving it everything they've got, they're now doing what they came here to do.
14 where you're at, up to that's this side of the socket, and then 16 all the way to rest. Okay. Do you want to go? Oh, yeah!
The computer lab team did some great work. They connected all the computers, all the laptops, they put it inside the cabinet, and they fixed 3 computers from the community. So that was a bonus that I didn't know that they were going to be able to do that. The e-box team worked really efficiently, and they're almost done the e-box.
So now we see how the principal came to check how the work is going, and guys just set up the box with every important gear for the solar system. So
Internet crew did some really good stuff as well. They put up a bunch of access points around here. They got some cabling going, and they even have like the basis of the router connected to the Starlink already up and going. When we went to the water tank in the afternoon, we saw that the water tank actually wasn't filling up as much as I thought it was. So upon doing the evaluation with the water crew, they were able to see what the issue was. And so tomorrow we have a plan now to go back there and do some adjustments to make sure that it's going to be working properly.
With the complex wiring and cabling well underway, and the solar panels now being mounted on the roof, the project is really starting to take shape. After a few days on the ground, Pavneet shares her perspective on the work, what it means to be here, and why this mission matters so much.
It's really important to bring the energy here because right now, if you look at it, there's no electricity here, there's no light. So we're trying to, put a light bulb there so they can study without straining their eyes. We're also putting some outlets so they can charge their, electronics if they have any. We're gonna put switches and all that. So this is what we're doing right now.
The success of the project is starting to take hold, not just in the wiring or the panels on the roof, but in the energy of the people doing the work.
Yeah, maybe just cut it right. Just like roll up there.
It's a very heartbreaking moment, I think, because soon all work will be done and this community will see a lot of lights. They will have internet, and I think for all the team it's a very special moment too.
Just pass it along.
For us, the cold and rain hadn't eased up. After getting familiar with the community, we interviewed the Lieutenant Governor and his wife.
Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. No, buenas tardes. No, buenas tardes. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
They welcomed us into their home to show us how they kept warm during the winter months. For them, it was simple. Fire. No gas furnace, no setting a thermostat, just doing whatever it took to stay warm. The smoke quickly filled the room, thick, heavy, unfiltered, and the room didn't even have proper ventilation. I had to step outside. The crew kept filming, but I was genuinely worried about how long they could last in that air. In the hills of Peru, especially during the winter season, temperatures can drop below freezing, often hitting -5 to -10 degrees Celsius at night. When that cold sets in, families gather around these makeshift stoves and huddle in blankets. It's the only option they have. No gas furnace like we enjoy back home, just fire and hope. And then the Lieutenant General and his wife shared a personal story that none of us could have been ready for.
Después familia ko mal caro enas mana comunicación comunicación enas pa no kay klimanta puriko tawa uratara puriko larisma señal takasan enas panchipi chimantara Oaxacuico no kayko celular chima señal celular Oaxacuico hok amigo carro llantara endos cheira haypamuanco chiwara endos chigama familia ko hasta graviña capuchan manaña hay veces salvaico hay veces que mana salvaico chu chena peno huawaips iski wañupun entonces mana che policía na ikamaya wawaikuna perdipuni cheka
Kiptishtin karamin chihuahua wañuqtin waqas pilakis mama kanchu wañu mama wañuruqtin willarakamnaypaq ni cerca pittian karruraq willakamunaypaq pustakunapas kan chillakis karan waqas chi uhukaran unkuypun karan lluypunki llaki qatiwaranku kiwaykup mama muq wawallaypish wañuraq haqaychimpa vecinaykunaqpas wañuranpuni tayta mama huk sipastapas haqipurun warmi qhari wañupuranku chillakis kiptarikurayku.
It was heartbreaking to think of losing 2 of their children. No hospital nearby, no reliable transportation, no way to communicate. Devastating. And what's worse, it wasn't unique. They told us that nearly every family in the community had lost a child to exposure, to sickness, to the conditions that come from living without basic infrastructure. This is the reality of energy poverty. It's not just about lights or stoves, it's about survival. We were invited into the home of a young mother with her baby. She welcomed us in and showed us how she cooks, or tries to. She had a gas stove, but the tank was empty.
No kay ko mas talant ang onja pa wai ko kuik. Mana napek anja. Gaspek mai abisis liawai ko kuik. Oh, ya napa kuik. Nama desde gobierno manta gasta kaya napamarang ko. Aha, kosen. Mana ki gasta apa mong ko mensual le pero apa mong karo apa mong ranti ko na ko per. Mana ya cuesta ya gas ranti ko na masta ko kay ko jant abay ko. Ko nang 55 gasyan kay balong kambes na. Tsaka rato dyan tsaka 55 ang kambes rat chato kura ka masta no kay mana ko nang hotel san siya gasta jant anya action. Mana kancho mana si ore de rom kasyan anje to pasang buncho. Karo. Man pasang buncho karo apa mo na pa. Ay mo na tsaka jant anya mo ne wai ko no kay ko.
With no pipelines to bring gas to the community and the road washed out, making it almost impossible to carry anything in, she may be cooking with fire for a long time. And even if the gas does eventually make it in by hand, without steady income, the cost is out of reach for most families here.
Pati kay kanjiliam po na konya di kuik. Mana kawai ko imap sa konya di kon kanjiliam po na mas awas pai ko pistus ki ko na wan chiliam po ni. Ane chiri wang ki ko na pe hamong grip on koy kun hasta chiri pasarap diarrhea on koy kun ini mana ham.
And then, while we were filming the last visuals to complete her story, something unexpected happened.
She asked me if we can take her to the hospital to Laris because she's baby's a little bit probably with the flu, beginning of the flu or something like that. Yeah. And yeah.
Her baby needed to go to the hospital. Her only other option was to walk nearly 5.5 hours through the cold and mountains, carrying her child the entire way. For us, it wasn't a question. As a team, we quickly packed up our gear and began the trek back to our vehicle. We'd come here to tell stories, but in that moment, helping her get to the hospital became the only story that mattered. The trip to the hospital was sobering. Globally, energy poverty and a lack of basic health care kill millions of children every year. In 2023 alone, an estimated 4.8 million children under 5 died, mostly from preventable causes like pneumonia, diarrhea, and complications at birth. Around 2,000 children die every day from air pollution, much of it caused by burning wood and charcoal indoors. And another 5,000 newborns die each year from infections linked to poor hygiene and a lack of clean water. These aren't just numbers. They're families like the one we met. We were glad we could help, but it shouldn't be this hard.
Gracias.
Gracias, ciao.
Back with the Light Up the World team, the day to turn the lights on had finally arrived.
We're just wrapping up here. We got a celebration coming on here. So we're just trying to button up everything else, and project's almost finished. We're excited to light it up and let everybody see in the community, and we're excited, and I think everybody's excited and tired, and we're excited to relax and just enjoy the rest of the time here.
After days of travel, training, and tireless effort, the work had been done. And now it was time to play and celebrate what had been accomplished.
Okay, so right now we're just getting ready for the inauguration ceremony. The community's prepared us some dish, so they're gonna cook over here. That's why they're setting up a little bit. They also brought us a few gifts, so they're getting all that ready while we finish up the installation.
It is fun to be in your comfort zone and live with all the resources you have around you, but please think about the people who would love to just have 1% of what you have.
The community gathered in the main square for the inauguration. This wasn't just a technical milestone. It was a moment of pride, partnership, and celebration of resilience. Jean-Paul addressed the families, the elders, and the volunteers who had traveled so far to be here.
Thanks to this project, the students are going to have a way better future in education. He expects you to someday come back to Maraya
and see what all the changes that happens here thanks to you and then thanks to this project. Because always they are going to receive you with open heart, open arms, all because they are really grateful, they are really happy for all the hard job you're doing here. At the count of 3, 1, 2, 3! Yay!
The community lit up and energy surged through the entire town. From homes to classrooms, wires that once carried nothing were now alive with electricity. Perhaps for the first time, this community could be seen from space, a place once invisible on the energy map, now shining bright. But this wasn't just about visibility. This was a turning point. Energy poverty wasn't completely solved, but the process of ending it had taken a huge step forward. Light Up the World brought energy and left behind something even greater: hope. It was amazing to see energy poverty being pushed back right here in this small mountain village. But while the lights were on, there were still gaps. Cooking gas was scarce, infrastructure was fragile. Energy poverty isn't just about electricity. It's about everything that energy supports. This was a start, a powerful one. But if we're serious about solving this, if we really want to bring light, heat, and opportunity to the billions of people still living without it, we have to ask, what's it going to take? The answer? Energy, and a lot of it. Let's think about how we got here. We flew across continents, jet fuel. We drove trucks through mountain passes, diesel. We charged batteries, powered tools, and stayed warm in the cold, using electricity drawn from a grid powered mostly by hydropower and natural gas. The solar panels themselves were made in factories that likely ran on coal or gas-fired power. The materials, aluminum, copper, lithium, were mined and refined and shipped using machinery fueled by oil. Every part of this solution, from the tools in our hands to the gear on our backs, was made possible by energy, usually hydrocarbons.
So fossil fuels have at least historically been the only real way that you could get out of energy poverty. This is what's powered most of the world's civilization. A lot of people believe that today we're almost done with that. We don't need fossil fuels. But of course, the reality is we still get more than 4/5 of our energy from fossil fuels. Remember, electricity is a fairly small part of our total energy consumption. All the other stuff, the one that's not electricity, there's virtually no use for renewables. We almost entirely use fossil fuels, and that includes some incredibly important things like fertilizer and steel and chemical industries and all these other important things, and cement, that we just don't know how to live a proper civilizational life without. So yes, we do need fossil fuels. We need it in the rich world, and it's also very clear that if you want to get out of energy poverty, you will need a lot more energy, and most of that energy is going to come from fossil fuels.
Dr. Lomberg makes a crucial point about the resources required to truly end energy poverty today. As the Light Up the World team packed up, and Kevin and our crew started the long journey home, the convoy of trucks and the flights ahead made one thing clear. Fossil fuels remain the foundation of our global energy system, even when it comes to building renewable energy projects. Dr. Patrick Moore, former president of Greenpeace, has his critics, but he makes an important point. What happens if we suddenly remove that foundation?
Let's just say do it overnight, right? Stop using fossil fuels now. Within the next week, we would notice that the food wasn't coming into the cities anymore. It takes big trucks to do that. Every day, the food has to be brought into the supermarkets in huge cities all around the world. That would stop. Immediately, people in the middle of the cities would be the ones that would starve first. The cities would die.
Dr. Moore paints a dark picture, but his warning isn't far-fetched. Now let me be clear. Recognizing the vital importance of fossil fuels doesn't mean they're the end-all be-all, but it's about understanding how the world actually works today. Right now, fossil fuels are the foundation. They move the trucks, power the grid, and support the infrastructure that allows renewables to grow. So if we want real solutions to end energy poverty, we need to use every tool available. Which brings us to the next question. In a world that desperately needs more energy, how can Canada respond and help? To answer that, we sat down with Teresa Waddington, Vice President of Corporate Relations for LNG Canada.
Canada has a remarkable abundance of energy. We have more gas, oil than our population could use in hundreds of years. So in a place like Canada where we have such an abundance, I think one of the things that really we as Canadians need to do is help alleviate energy poverty and improve energy sovereignty for other nations. And that involves exporting a lot of our products. But secondly, we have really stringent environmental practices and regulations, which means that any energy that comes from Canada is produced with a knowledge of what that footprint is.
Teresa's right. Canada has vast reserves of oil and natural gas, produced under some of the world's highest environmental standards. We have more than 160 billion barrels of proven oil reserves, ranking third in the world, only behind Venezuela and Saudi Arabia. And when it comes to natural gas, Canada produces nearly 18 billion cubic feet every single day, tapping into one of the largest reserves on Earth, the Montney Formation, which holds an estimated 450 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, enough to supply all of Canada's current needs for more than 100 years. But we can share what we have. Canada's natural gas reserves are more than 8 times larger than Peru's, and our oil reserves are nearly 200 times greater. Peru is just one example, a country with potential and some energy of its own, yet many communities still live without reliable power. In Peru's case, we could export our LNG to help stabilize their grid, light up schools, and power hospitals. But it doesn't stop there. Beyond LNG, there are countries that urgently need our oil to fuel transportation, industry, and heating. From India to Japan, South Korea to Spain, nations around the world are searching for energy that's affordable, secure, and responsibly produced. Canada has that energy. Bottom line, we have what the world needs. So why aren't we getting it to them?
In some cases, it's as simple as infrastructure. We simply do not have massive export capacity. So we do have some infrastructure, but we're really limited by how much. And it all depends on being able to get to tidewater. So to get to one of our 3 coasts, usually not the Arctic coast because of ice, but between Atlantic and Pacific to be able to serve the world.
So according to Teresa, the issue isn't that Canada lacks energy, it's that we just don't have the infrastructure to move it. The infrastructure she's referring to is pipelines. Pipelines that can get our oil and gas to the coast, plus the terminals needed to ship it overseas. Without those, the resources are kind of stuck, and the rest of the world can't fully access what we have.
If you look at access to the coast, I can name the 3 or 4 pipelines that go to the coast. It's actually very, very few that allow us to export or to take our product anywhere except the United States. And it's not bad that we're sending it to the United States, but I would argue what the United States is doing right now is they're building huge amounts of LNG terminals and refineries and all the different ways that you can then ship that product out. And they're buying our product cheap and they're shipping it out from their coastlines, which with a population that's a bit more supportive of doing these things. Now, I think there's a middle ground. I think that the pace of development needs to be extremely measured against, are you doing all of the right things around consultation, engagement, understanding? I personally believe we do need probably a few more pipelines, not a ton, but a few more in order to allow us to be what we could be on the world stage.
While pipelines aren't a magic bullet to end energy poverty, they're essential for getting more Canadian energy to global markets. And it's also important to understand that without pipelines, oil and gas production slows, projects stall, and investment goes elsewhere. After all, why produce energy if you can't move it efficiently? So without more pipelines to supply the world with all the energy we have, Canada sends most of it to the US at a discount, leaving us dependent on a single buyer. Not exactly great for political sovereignty, is it? And as we continue our drive back to Cusco, the opportunity for Canada to send its natural resources to other countries is hard to miss. Everywhere we look, cars, buses, motorbikes, all using fuel. And this is just one country. the global demand for oil and gas is growing. Right now, billions of people still live without reliable access to energy. And with the world population heading toward 10 billion by 2050, the demand is only going to rise. People need our energy now, and they'll need even more in the future. So the big question is, why hasn't Canada built more pipelines? To help us understand, we spoke with Dr. Monica Gattinger, one of Canada's top energy policy experts and the director of the Institute for Science, Society and Policy at the University of Ottawa.
What we've seen over the last decade, in my opinion, is the emergence of two very different polarized visions of what Canada's energy future should be in an age of climate change, reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, and mistrust in public institutions. Pipelines have played a huge role in this, right? So there have been a lot of folks in the environmental movement who've been dissatisfied with levels of progress when it comes to climate policy and climate action. And so they've looked at pipelines as an opportunity to shine a light on those issues. I think for folks who are looking to build pipelines and get market access for Canadian energy resources, they have found in some instances that the goalposts have shifted. That, they think that they've come to an agreement about how to move forward, but then there's a sense that the expectations of the environmental community have increased over time.
Dr. Gattinger explains that in Canada, pipelines stopped being just infrastructure. They became symbols in a broader fight. One side called them climate villains, the other, economic saviors. What followed was years of conflict. Climate action, protests, policy clashes, court battles, and years of costly delays. Fossil fuels and renewables were too often framed as enemies rather than partners in solving real-world energy challenges. And in some cases, that divide led Canada to slow fossil fuel development out of climate fear. Climate change is serious, and it's real. Here in Peru, Kevin showed us a powerful example. The vibrant colors of this rainbow mountain, now a top tourist destination, were revealed only after warming temperatures melted the glaciers that once covered it. But while the effects of climate change are visible, the conversation isn't always honest. While many experts agree human activity plays a major role, others still debate how much is driven by natural cycles and long-term patterns. At the same time, exaggerated claims about oil and gas development have made it harder to talk about practical, balanced solutions. What some call climate hysteria has pushed the discussion to extremes. This isn't about ignoring climate change, it's about addressing it in a way that also lifts people out of poverty and expands access to the energy they desperately need.
Climate hysteria is something that's sort of come partly from the media. They love to play up bad news, and also because it's a great way to sort of get people's attention. Every policy costs will sort of exaggerate their costs because, pick me, give me more money, make sure that you focus on this issue. But of course, if you think the world is ending in, say, 12 years or whatever the current fashionable number is, you are likely to make really bad decisions because you think we have to cut right now. But that's not what climate change is about. First of all, there's no such limit at 12 years or any other thing. It's a problem that will get slightly worse over time. But the reality is, this is a problem we need to fix over the next 50 or 100 years. And that's why you need to invest in green energy R&D so that we actually get the innovations that everyone will pick, not just rich, well-meaning Canadians, but also the Chinese, the Indians, and the Africans. We're not going to be able to do that as long as people are scared witless. If you think this is the end of the world, you're going to spend a lot of money badly. Climate change is a problem. It's by no means the end of the world. We need two things, I think. We need to recognize that for most people on this planet, the main problem is not temperatures in 100 years. It's the fact that kids die tonight, that there's not enough food, that there's terrible education, that there's a lack of jobs and corruption, all these other very simple and immediate problems. And there's something very, very Western, very rich, and very sort of let them eat cake kind of approach for rich people to sit and say, you know what, I think we should do something about the temperature in 2100. No, we should do something about tuberculosis tonight. The second part is we also need to tackle climate change. We're rich civilization, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. But we should fix it smartly. Currently, we're fixing it really badly because we're basically saying, let's cut carbon emissions now to feel good about ourselves, but it'll actually have very little impact in 100 years, instead of focusing on finding the technology that'll make it possible for everyone to cut. And in that way, we can also open up the conversation of saying, all right, let's fix it smarter, let's fix it cheaper, let's fix it more efficiently, which means that there's a lot of other money left over to fix all the other problems that we both have in the rich world, and then fix, for instance, energy poverty and diseases and all the other things in the poor half of the world. If we don't get this right, if we're so focused on climate that we forget these other problems, we will end up leaving a much worse world.
Bjorn's right. Our world has its fair share of problems, and sometimes you see them right next to each other. Here in Peru, they once built mountaintops like Machu Picchu, lasting monuments to vision, balance, and human potential. Now, in some places, they're building mountaintops of garbage. Same country, same mountains, entirely different legacy. All the energy, all the advancement, and yet somehow the world isn't necessarily becoming better, not cleaner, not more sustainable. No one's trying to make the world worse, but clearly we need smarter solutions, solutions that actually lift people up without tearing the planet down. And the good news, some are already underway. The Light Up the World project is one example, Canadian innovation bringing renewable energy to off-grid communities. And back home, we're working to responsibly develop our own energy resources, so we can help even more. Our energy sector is cutting emissions, investing in carbon capture, partnering with Indigenous communities, and raising the bar on environmental performance. And our new government has pledged to make Canada a global energy superpower by cutting red tape, fast-tracking major projects, and building the infrastructure the world urgently needs. But here's the truth. We can't become an energy superpower without growing our conventional energy industry. It keeps our economy running, powers infrastructure, and funds the innovation behind new technologies and renewables. So if we want to reduce energy poverty and build a more sustainable future, we need to stop framing it as fossil fuels versus renewables. It's not a fight, it's a blend. And getting that balance right is how we move forward.
My current vision, and it'll be informed as we go along, is that we see old technologies and new technologies coming together to reduce impact and increase output. So things like solar-powered gas pumps on wells, using wind power to drive production on some of our petrochemical complexes for things like, light plastics that then are used on electric cars to decrease the weight of the unit. There's so many synergies in how this energy future is coming together, and it really will be a blending of kind of the standard old school fossil fuel stuff and the new technologies, ways of thinking, processes, and energy options that come together. I think Canada is going to have a massive opportunity to be help on the way on a global scale, not just for emissions reduction, which will be one piece of what we do, but more so for energy access, giving energy to the world that desperately needs some as we start to come up that energy poverty alleviation.
As our time in Peru came to a close, Kevin invited us into his home to meet his loved ones.
We are in Chinchero. This is my community, the place where I was born.
Kevin introduced us to his parents, and we saw how their kitchen was a blend of old and new. Then we met his grandmother. She was cooking with wood, even though the family has a gas stove. Despite their concerns, she refuses to switch. It's a clear sign energy transitions can take generations.
She's very happy because I'm a professional, a tour guide, and she's very happy because she can see how or with who I'm working. I know here in Cusco, in Peru. Yeah. So sorry, she cried a little bit. Yeah, but she's very proud. She's very happy.
Her pride in Kevin's accomplishments brought her to tears. It was a powerful reminder of the profound impact that raising standards of living has, not just on communities, but on individual lives and families.
Yeah, I have a lot of memories with her, with my uncle, with my parents still here living as a kid. It was not a, sorry. For sure, it was not an easy life. Yeah, because of the a few resources that they had and that we had when I was a kid, for example. Yeah, for example, they didn't have the very probably the opportunities as I had. In my family, everybody are proud of me because I was the first who went to the university, and it made me happy as well. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Sorry. She's very happy. Yeah. When you talk about these kind of things, it's just very, very deep. I would say that it's something that you cannot avoid. Cry is something natural sometimes. Yeah. When you come here, you remember everything. That's the reason. Yeah, for sure.
We left Peru with a real sense of hope. We came back to Canada inspired, knowing our country has the resources and the opportunity not just for us to thrive, but for us to help people all over the world. But there's something we can't forget. Energy poverty isn't just something happening over there. It's also happening here in Canada. And so, for our final stop, we headed north.
Backed upright, cable tray stowed, and carry-on bags are placed in the overhead bin or under the seat in front of you.
Our crew traveled to Nauyot, a small remote community located on the Arctic Circle, on the northern coast of Hudson Bay. It's one of the most isolated places in Canada, accessible only by plane or boat for most of the year. We met up with Blaine Chislett, a local energy advocate from Rankin Inlet, Nunavut, and someone who knows these challenges firsthand.
Do a bit of a lap here through beautiful downtown Nauyot.
Proudly Inuk, Blaine's fight for a sustainable future is rooted in family. For over 9 years, he's worked to advance renewable energy in remote communities.
Which, if you look out to the left of me, that's the Hudson Bay here. All the sleds and snowmobiles there for hunting seals or going out looking for caribou or going out to your cabin. That's the closest thing to a highway we have, and that's only there for 8 months of the year.
The Arctic is rich in natural resources, but that doesn't mean energy is easy to access. This community relies on a single annual fuel shipment, barges loaded with jet fuel, petrol, and Arctic diesel. It all arrives during the short summer window before the ocean freezes, and that fuel powers everything: homes, schools, health centers, even clean water systems. But when your entire energy supply depends on shipments traveling thousands of kilometers by sea and arriving just once a year, the logistics are incredibly complex and extremely expensive. Those costs get passed directly to residents, making energy prices in the north crushing, sometimes 3 to 4 times higher than what most Canadians pay.
For a homeowner, it's ranged from about 6 or 7 years ago, of being about $200 at the high end, to my last power bill was $690. All right. This is all the energy for the whole community. 100% of the electricity demand is created through diesel combustion motors. All our town water, town sewer that's moved is through diesel as well, so that's transported through there with combustion motors. All our sustenance hunting and traditional hunting gear is 98% snowmobiles and quads and boats, and the rest is a dog team. So the majority of the town's energy demands comes through this key core area. These pipes and the fuel tanks on top of the hill, 98% of Canadians don't realize that up in the Arctic, we have to bring in barges full of jet fuel, petrol, and Arctic P50 diesel for vehicles and for power generation. So during the short summer months, we have barges come up full of all the petroleum products to deliver them to each community. And if you look on the cusp of the hill here, you'll see several pipelines going up towards the power generation plant and the gas station. Fuel tanks on the hill, that's the supply for the year. One little leak could cause us total chaos, and we'll have to fly in fuel or fly people out and lose a community. That's our heat, that's our electricity, and that's our health centers, that's our schools. That's our light during lunch, because sometimes the sun doesn't come up here in the winter.
For decades, conventional fuels have kept Nauyot alive. Their reliability has been vital for survival. However, this system is under strain. Aging generators can fail, and their constant hum is a reminder of the community's dependence on one energy source. So even here in Canada, Nauyot faces all three pillars of energy poverty: limited abundance, reliability, and affordability.
Another factor of energy poverty is right now 25 communities over the biggest landmass in Canada that owns 3/4 of the coastlines. That's cold as all hell for 6 months of the year. We have one source of power. We can't run an extension cord to our neighboring community because they're dozens of kilometers away, sometimes thousands. We have diesel power. Great, easy, very easy to produce, but stuff does go wrong with them as well. So when that goes dark, the whole community that's energy poverty. We're used to it. We're used to when the lights go out. Toronto gets -6 and the lights go dark. That's 6 days of my news tied up right there. I never hear the end of it. We call that Tuesday up here.
Nauyot is a perfect example of why blended energy solutions are essential. Relying on a single energy source is never a good idea, and Blaine knows it. Luckily, this community is thinking ahead, tackling today's challenges and planning for the future by diversifying their energy mix. Blaine and Saku Investments are building a solar farm to complement the community's existing generators.
So we will head off to see the solar array. So this is going to supplement 30% of the town's generator power demand throughout the year on average, 30%. So this is the first time I've had eyes on this project since we marked it off. So it's amazing to see all the piles and solar panels thrown up. Nauyot's first step towards a renewable future, and hopefully stop some of the spiking costs so my kids and kids' will be able to afford to live up here if they choose so. Right now, at the upward trend of fuel costs, it's not going to be sustainable for as many more generations. So this is the first push of many to help stop that energy poverty that's not very showcased throughout the world.
Building this energy garden right here in Canada highlights that energy isn't just about power. It's about purpose, legacy, and creating meaningful change for future generations.
I'm beyond proud. I'm beyond proud of seeing local Inuit staff here hired and working and learning. I love it when an elder pulls me over or a kid pulls me over and asks me what's that, or give us praise for doing it, or say it has to be done and understand it. I'm full of pride when I get asked the hard questions that no one wants to hear, but it's a learning experience for me or them. Everyone wants to be remembered. Maybe this is my little slice of being remembered, right? So.
As Blaine reflects on the idea of legacy, one thing is clear. Providing reliable, affordable, and abundant energy leaves a lasting impact for generations. And everyone who helps deliver that energy, in all its forms, deserves to be recognized. Whether it's Blaine here in the Arctic, Callista, Pavneet, and Aaron sharing their expertise in Peru, Mikola capturing beauty in the midst of hardship, Teresa shaping strategy in the boardroom, Bjorn challenging ideas in political offices, or the workers going deep, to extract Canadian resources. Even Kevin, taking the time to guide us through his world. They're all part of the same story, a story of energy, of effort, of hope, and a future we build together. The lights illuminating this Arctic community echo the scenes we saw in Peru, two powerful examples of how energy transforms lives. Whether it's a developing nation or our own backyard, one truth remains: energy is fundamental. This journey has shown what a blended energy future really looks like and what it might take to end energy poverty all over the world. Canada is energy rich. We have the resources, the commitment to the environment, the technology, and the people to make a difference. The answer isn't oil or wind, gas or solar. It's all of it. That means building pipelines and solar panels. It means growing our economy and protecting the environment. It means partnering with Indigenous communities. It means exporting what we have because it can save lives. But more than anything, it means remembering who this is really about. People like the mother who would have had to walk 5 hours in the cold to get her child to a hospital. And people like us, who now know the truth and can no longer look away. Energy poverty can end, but only if we decide to end it. Help is on the way, but it begins with us. So let's get started.